The Trump administration, returning to its maximum pressure policy, is trying to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. A meeting at Camp David, which will include key members of Trump's foreign policy team, is aimed at developing a strategy that incorporates both diplomatic negotiations and, if necessary, military options. President Trump has repeatedly stated that he will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. However, he has also stressed the priority of a diplomatic path, noting that successful negotiations could save many lives. Nevertheless, Trump's position contains certain contradictions. On one hand, he is pressuring Iran with economic sanctions and military threats. On the other, he is pursuing negotiations. Mediated by Oman and Italy, the sixth round of nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran is scheduled to take place in Muscat on Sunday, June 15th. Iran, in turn, demands the easing of sanctions and the recognition of its right to enrich uranium for civilian purposes. The success of these negotiations depends on whether the parties can reach an agreement on the limits of uranium enrichment and Iran's nuclear infrastructure. In contrast to Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu is categorically opposed to the preservation of Iran's nuclear program in any form. He insists that Iran's nuclear infrastructure must be completely dismantled and that Tehran must be denied the ability to enrich uranium. Israel, having conducted operations against Iran in recent years, believes that Iran is currently in a militarily weakened state, which creates a unique opportunity to strike its nuclear facilities. An upcoming meeting of Israel's Security Council, which will include not only the defense minister, but also representatives of far-right parties, indicates Netanyahu's intention to consolidate domestic support for possible action against Iran. According to Israeli media, the military planning phase, including the transfer of air assets and ammunition, is nearing completion. A recent 40-minute phone call between Trump and Netanyahu underscores their close cooperation, but also certain disagreements. Trump urged Netanyahu to refrain from military actions that could disrupt the negotiations. Meanwhile, Netanyahu insisted that a credible military threat against Iran must always be maintained. Trump, however, has not specified whether the U.S. would support a unilateral Israeli strike if the negotiations fail. These disagreements are deepened by the two leaders' different approaches. Trump, seeking to avoid a new war in the Middle East, gives priority to diplomacy. In contrast, Netanyahu, seeing Iran's weakened state as a strategic opportunity, is adopting a more aggressive approach. Israel's military plans, which include airstrikes and possibly commando operations, would require both military and diplomatic support from the U.S. A Reuters forecast, based on information about Israeli military preparations and the Trump-Netanyahu talks, suggests an Israeli strike on Iran could happen within days. Such a strike by Israel could have serious consequences. Iran has promised to respond harshly to any Israeli attack, which could lead to a regional war, including the activation of Iran's allied militant groups. At the same time, an Israeli strike could push Iran to develop a nuclear weapon more quickly or to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. A regional escalation could also disrupt oil supplies, leading to an energy crisis.